if you don't have a little bit of a game plan, what tends to happen is we will just default to either going completely mindless, or to just doing what we usually do, or to just not thinking about it at all, or just doing what other people at the table are doing. And then Monday rolls back around and you're like, why did I do all of that? Hello, my friends. It's been a while since we've just kind of sat and had a little Q&A format chit chat. So I thought we were due. So I posted on Instagram and on the YouTube community page, collected a handful of questions, and I'm going to answer them today. Now, there were, let me say, a lot of questions about skincare. I feel like that needs to be its own video. So I hear you. And I promise I will do a video on my skincare routine soon, but we're not going to do that in this video. This video, we're going to stick to more nutritional based questions because I got a lot of those. So I thought we'd stay under this umbrella. So the first question that came in is about sugar-free foods. And the question is, are sugar-free foods and drinks actually better, or are the artificial sweetener alternatives not worth it? And I thought this was a very good question because, like all things nutrition, I think it's nuanced. Now, had you asked me this question 10 years ago, I would say absolutely they're not worth the price of admission, and I don't think anybody should be using anything or any type of artificial sweetener. But I would say I've come to more of a middle ground on this question. And here's what I think it depends on. As a whole, I think we all need to be minimizing our desire for sweet, period, right? You know, not having these strong sugar cravings all of the time, whether they're coming from real sugar or artificial sugars. I think the name of the game is to lessen the desire for these sweet foods. And if you are somebody who eats a lot of sugar or has a strong desire or craving for a lot of sugar, and you're trying to meet that desire by drinking lots of diet sodas or eating sugar-free candies or sugar-free puddings or sugar-free this and that, I would say this is not a road we want to be traveling, and that I would definitely try to work towards eliminating / very much minimizing the amount of artificial sweeteners that you're taking in. I mean, artificial sweeteners have been shown that they can interrupt the microbiome in your body, and so they are not always great for digestion and for the stomach lining. And so that's another thing to keep in mind with anybody's advice, including my own, right? There's no advice or feedback that's ever going to be better than that of your own body. But I would say if you are somebody who is mostly eating a real whole food diet, and every now and then you can have a diet soda to curb a sugar craving, in my humble opinion, I don't think it's really that big of a deal. And I think it can even be helpful for some people. So all of this to say, the dose determines the poison. Is that the expression? The poison is determined by the dose, right? Anything in excess is a problem, whether that's real sugar or artificial sweeteners. And I would say at a whole, we want to be minimizing our desire for sweet in general. If you find a little bit of artificial sweeteners can help you to curb your sweet cravings, satisfy your sweet cravings, and keep your intake of sugar overall lower, I think it can be helpful for some. I think for others, it might not feel good in your body. It can create some digestive upset, or you can find yourself craving it the same way you would regular sugar. In that case, I would say it's not something you want to be leaning on as a crutch in your diet. So all of this to say, nutrition is nuanced, and there is a scientific study to prove pretty much any angle of anything in nutrition. So I think it's most important to practice focusing on real whole foods, minimum ingredients, and of course, listening to your own body for feedback. If you have a hunch that you are just consuming too much sugar or consuming too much artificial sweeteners and it's like top of the mind, that is probably some communication from your inner wisdom to be moving in the direction of minimizing those foods. Okay, I could talk about it all day, but hopefully that is helpful. I'd love to hear your thoughts as well down in the description box below. Okay, the next question that we have here, somebody is asking, do you have a way to purchase your Don't Diet class without joining the monthly community? Or can I take the class and then add the community later? I just don't want the pressure of being part of a program right now, but I do want to take the class at my pace very badly. Okay, so for those of you that don't know, I do have a program. It's called the Don't Diet. It's basically all the tools and techniques that I've used over the years to approach health and weight loss in a kind, sane, sustainable way without the means of traditional dieting. Now, for a while, I was offering that class as part of a membership, but right now, nobody can access that class. But the good news is it's going to be available again in January. And you're going to be able to buy that class on its own, and you can go through it at your own pace. So basically, you buy that class and you have access to the class and all of the materials and the workbooks and the recommended readings for 1 full year. Now, included with that purchase, there will be 6 live calls. But if you don't want to join the live calls, you don't have to join the live calls. You can just purchase the class and then have all those materials and do it at your own pace. If you're interested, you can watch the replays of the calls, but no need to partake. And then for those of you who are curious, I do also have an ongoing community membership that you can then join for people that do like to be part of a community, but you can't access that membership until you go through the class. So all of this to say, yes, you can buy that class and go through it at your own pace, and that will be available again in January. And if you go down to the description box below, get your name on the wait list, and you will be the first to know when that's available. But even if you don't go on the wait list, I will be sure to share here on YouTube as well. Okay, next up is a question about staying on track for the weekends. They are hard to stay focused. Do you have any tips for staying on track during the weekends? This is a very common question, and I would say a common dilemma for a lot of people. Now, during the week, we tend to have more structure, right? So we have like more organization, we know what's coming, we have our routines, our habits, and then the weekends come and they're a little looser, they're a little freer. So I think there's a couple of different things you can think about going in your weekend to stay on track with all of your healthy eating intentions, because we have to remember that whatever you're doing, it has to feel sustainable. It has to feel like a lifestyle, which means it has to roll into the weekends and then right back into Monday. So the first thing I would say is you want to go into your weekend with a game plan. I teach a game plan inside of my program because I am a big believer in intentional eating, meaning you want to think about what your day is going to look like, what your social events look like, what your dinner plans look like, so you can have a little bit of a plan, a little bit of intention before you get into those circumstances. Because if you don't have a little bit of a game plan, what tends to happen is we will just default to either going completely mindless, or to just doing what we usually do, or to just not thinking about it at all, or just doing what other people at the table are doing, right? That's very common. Just kind of go with the flow of the group that you're in. And then Monday rolls back around and you're like, why did I do all of that? And it's not because anything's wrong with you. It's just because you simply didn't think it through and you didn't have a game plan. So I recommend having a game plan. A couple of things to think about. One is going to be what I'm going to call meal timing or rhythm. A lot of times, because the weekends are looser, we don't have the same level of structure, but the body does like structure. The body likes to know what to expect, and meal timing can be very helpful, meaning you know that you eat your breakfast around 9 o'clock, and that around 1 o'clock you're going to have some lunch, and maybe late in the afternoon you're going to have a snack, and then 6 or 7 is going to be dinner time. And trying to maintain a level of a meal structure on the weekends, because a lot of people say you're going out to dinner, you will think to yourself, well, I just won't eat all day, or I'll push my appetite all day, or ignore my hunger so that I can really enjoy when I go out to dinner tonight. And that is a recipe for disaster. So we want to maintain a level of meal structure. Now, if you know you're going to be socializing or having bigger meals out, I do think it can be really helpful during the day to try to prioritize protein and fiber focused meals, meaning you are eating vegetables and protein for your meals during the day, because number one, it's going to be satiating, and number two, it's going to be lighter. Like, while I always do promote protein forward meals, specifically these days, now that I hit 50 and I'm really trying to move my own diet in that direction, I also am a big fan of carbohydrates. But I think if you know you're going to have an indulgent meal later in the evening or in the nighttime, having lighter protein and veggie focused meals throughout the day can really help you. So they're not totally skipping meals, and you're not going into dinner with a gigantic appetite. You're staying fueled and nourished throughout the day, but you're also doing it in a way where you're eating smaller and lighter meals, so that come the end of the day, you have the space for some of those, maybe it's the glass of wine, maybe it's the dessert, maybe it's the fries, whatever your thing is. But again, I would still go into the weekend with a game plan, and I always think to myself, pick your party, right? Meaning, if you're going to go out to dinner, pick your party. What's your thing? Do you want to have the margarita? Do you want to have the chocolate cake? Do you want to have the appetizers and the bread basket, right? Pick your party. Maybe it's not all of those, but you're going with the things that you enjoy the most and that are going to be like the most satisfying to you, keeping in mind that you also want to wake up tomorrow feeling like $1,000,000. Okay, so the next question I thought was rather interesting. Somebody asked, am I still cooking recipes from my cookbook? So if you didn't know, I do have a cookbook, and this is a whole food focused cookbook. So real whole food recipes that's kind of seasonally inspired, if you will. And do I still cook from my cookbook? Yes, I do. I think the reason that this question is being asked is because in the last couple of years, I've kind of tweaked my approach to my recipes. And I know you all see that here on the channel. And that is I'm taking a more protein forward approach, right? Here's a really easy way to think about food. If you've never heard this before, I think it can be very helpful. And then I'm going to explain more. Focusing on the quality of your food determines your health. Focusing on the calories in your food determines your weight. And focusing on the macronutrients in your food determines your body composition. So I have become a little bit more macronutrient focused when it comes to eating and my recipes in the kitchen. And that is because for the last couple of years, I've been on a bit of a fitness journey. Now, for those of you who remember, I lost my mom earlier this year, and before that, she had struggled for the last 2 years. She had cancer and she was having a rough time, and I was doing a lot to be with her and to take care of her. And I was around a lot of people being in and out of doctors and hospitals who were not well. And something that really stood out to me was just how physically weak so many people were, including my mom. And at that point, I was about 48. I just turned 50 this year. I really came to a decision for myself that working on physical strength was something I really wanted to start to prioritize as I was going into my 50th year and then beyond. I really like to approach life with the mentality that it can keep getting better and that we can keep getting stronger and that it's not like all downhill after a certain age. And so because I went on to hire a fitness coach and I've been really working on some strength goals at the gym, I have been trying to adjust my diet to support those goals. And what that means is I've been eating a more protein forward diet, which you have also seen me do here on the channel. I'm trying to share those recipes and those tips with you all as well, because I know a lot of you have been with me for a lot of years and we're all kind of in the same boat. So do I still use recipes from my cookbook? I do. There's still lots of protein forward recipes in there, and there's lots of good basics and just like family favorites. A lot of times I'll use recipes from my cookbook when we're doing family dinners or bigger meals like that. But on the day to day, I tend to keep my meals a little simpler these days. I do a lot of meal prep, and if you guys have any specific questions about that, just let me know, because as you know, we share videos all the time. So I want to make videos that are helpful to you. So if there's anything specific that you want to see, just let me know. Drop it down in the comment section below and I will be sure to read through those. Okay, I have one last question for this video and then we will cut it short. If you have other questions that you want to ask, drop them in the comment section below. I'm happy to do these more often if you find them helpful. Okay, the last question that I will address today is ways to get your children to eat like you more than just exposure. So I think this one depends on how old your kids are. If you have younger kids, I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, this goes for anything in parenting. Words are not going to get you very far. The most powerful way to get your kids to do anything is to be a living example of it, right? They are watching what you are doing. That's what they're doing. They are watching you and they are observing you and they are mimicking you. Just saying words doesn't usually seem to be the most effective tool when it comes to parenting. So if you want your kids to eat well, the most important thing that you could be doing is eating well. And not just eating well, but like eating well and enjoying it. Eating well as a lifestyle, not as like a special thing that needs to be pointed out or talked about. Do you know what I mean? It's not like you make a salad one day and then you're just like, hey, wow, look at this healthy salad and I have all my chicken on there and I'm eating lots of protein, right? It's not really so much a conversation, it's more of a demonstration. So it's, how are you living your life? What are you eating? What are you showing them? What are you demonstrating to them? Because that's what they are ultimately going to pick up on. I will also say, when people have young children, do not cater, in my humble opinion, to everything they want. You know, if your kids love macaroni and cheese and chicken fingers, don't just start making that every night of the week, because of course their palates are going to become very accustomed to that. That's all they're going to want, and they're going to get picky, right? It's easier to not have picky eaters when we're not, you know, being short order cooks to our kids. Trust me, I can fall into that trap as well, because I like to cook and I'm always like, what would you like? What would you like? But you want to really be like, hey, here's what we're eating tonight. Here's what dinner is. And what I always did when the kids were younger, if they really didn't want what we were having, or they really didn't like it, they could have scrambled eggs or they could have a smoothie. It was that simple. And I was happy with both of those backup choices. And to this day, they know if they don't like what I'm making for dinner, that's what you can have, scrambled eggs or a smoothie, right? So don't let them default to the foods that are going to pull their palates off of focusing on real whole foods. So that may be oversimplified, but in my years of raising kids, that's really what I found it came down to. I will also say, once your kids start to get older, and they start to be exposed to the world and to the Doritos and to the Oreos and to what all their friends are doing, I think you get to a point where you really, again, you have to live your best life. You have to set the stage for yourself. And the best that we can do is be an example. At some point, you have to let them have their own experience and trust or hope that they circle back around to the core, you know, bits of information that you have demonstrated for them about eating well and good nutrition throughout the years. Because I know when my kids started to venture off and they wanted to start doing all the things that we never really did in the house, but all of our friends were doing and they wanted to do, I found that trying to like micromanage them, it doesn't work. You know, shaming them, trying to control them, it doesn't work. If anything, it will just make them want to hide these things from you. So it's like, don't give the food that much power. Trust your children, trust they'll come back to the basics, and you keep focusing on you and you mastering good, healthy habits, because eventually they are going to be, embodying what they're seeing you do. Okay, so we're going to leave it there for today because I don't want this video to be too long. But again, if you enjoy videos like this and you have any other questions you want me to address, come on down to the comment section and leave them there. Maybe I'll do another video like this. I will also say I collected a bunch of questions last time that I didn't answer in this video because I feel like they all deserve their own video, like people asking about cooking oils or pots and pans or skincare, and they're a little bit more involved. So I'm going to also go through and think about creating some videos that respond to those questions as well, but are a little bit more of a resource in and of themselves. As always, I thank you for watching, and I will see you all back here next week with a brand new video. Cheers!